When he looked down at what had hit him, he noticed it was an earth pillar. "I don't have all day, you little twerp," Bones shouted. Peter was surprised at how little the attack had hurt. It was as if someone had given him a small nudge, but knowing the others would expect a reaction, he held his hands around his stomach and started to hurl forward. While continuing to look over at Vorden, Peter then looked at Bones and started to copy each action Vorden was doing. First was a step on the ground. An earth wall was then lifted from the floor. Vorden made sure to create a small one, trying to mimic a level 2 user. It was only because he had stolen a level 4 Earth user's ability that he was able to still create Earth skills at such a distance. And thankfully, the others were all distracted, looking at Peter. To the outside, it just looked like Vorden was practicing some form of martial arts. Peter then threw out his palm, imitating Vorden, and the earth wall formed a worm-like shape, still attached to the wall. "Is that enough for you?" Peter asked. Bones then walked up to the wall and placed his hand on it, lowering the wall down. He continued to walk forward until he was directly in front of Peter's face. An earth pole was formed into Bones' hand, and he whacked Peter right across the face, leaving a large red mark. A metallic taste filled Peter's mouth as he spewed blood from his mouth. Then he had to do everything to stop himself from just jumping on top of his Bones and ripping his neck. "That's for wasting my time. If you did that in the first place, we could have gone home already," Bones said as he started to walk away from the others. "Peter, make sure you reach level 4 in time, or else." As the three were leaving, Peter could do nothing but watch them go. He hated the fact that even though he now had the chance to fight them, he had to hide that fact. However, when Peter looked at the three people just about to leave the training room, he noticed Vorden was standing in front of them, blocking their path. "Hey guys, it seems like I have no partner in training today. Do you mind helping me out?" Vorden asked. "What the hell? Scram out of here," Bones said. "Oh, you're happy to practice with me right here and now," Vorden shouted, making sure everyone could hear. A few seconds later, Vorden was already casting his earth spells, aiming them at all three of them. The sudden attacks and Vorden's versatile use of the earth abilities didn't allow Bones and his men to last long. Vorden managed to give each of them a thorough beating without getting hit a single time back. Once classes were over for the day, Vorden and Peter met up together in the library. They each used a book to cover their faces as they talked to each other using the silencing orb. The orb meant that as long as no one was at the table, none of the others around them could hear. "Okay, so, do you remember the plan?" Vorden asked. "Tonight, I want to try to get all three of those regenerative ability users. There are 3 places where we can most likely get them. At dinner, we can follow them just outside their dorm room or before they return to their homeroom classes. All we have to do is convince each student and lead them to Fex's room to deal with the rest. Now this is important, Peter, because each of us is going to have our person you're going to follow. Me, you, and Quinn will each have one person, so don't mess this up, okay?" Although Peter was no longer weak like before, Vorden still couldn't rely on him. "What about the other?" Peter asked. "If I'm not satisfied after these, then does that mean we're going to have to kill more?" When Peter asked this, Vorden looked at him carefully. Usually a person would be quite worried, but Peter said those last words so casually. "Did he change after killing Earl?" Vorden thought. "He's getting more dangerous." "Stop being such a hypocrite," Rayton said. Vorden chose to ignore Rayton's words for now. Technically, he wasn't being a hypocrite himself, because he had never done such things. "We will leave that to Quinn. I'm sure he will think of something in that time frame," Vorden replied. With that, the two of them had their targets that they would follow for the day. However, unknown to both of them, when they thought their conversation was protected and being kept secret by the sound orb, it wasn't, because Logan had heard everything. After hearing what Peter and Vorden had said, Logan wasn't shocked by it. His mind worked differently from others. It was very rare for him to feel any emotion, such as sadness or shock. It wasn't until he first discovered computers and programming that he started to feel the emotions of joy and excitement. So his reaction to hearing this wasn't normal, to say the least. He felt like he needed more information before coming to a logical conclusion. So far, there were 3 students involved, Vorden, Quinn, and Peter that he knew of. The words that stuck out most to him during the conversation were, "kill again." Logan then proceeded to log on to his computer and started to access the school servers. Whenever he could hit a firewall or security breach, he would place his hand on the computer and close his eyes. "Please, I need your help. Would you let me in?" Logan asked. A few moments later, he was into the school system. Since the new school semester started, there were a total of 2 students dead that had been reported, one named Brandon and the other named Earl. When looking at the files, he also noticed that 2 students had been brought in for questioning, and one of them for both cases, Quinn. If the 3 of them are friends, are they covering for Peter? Maybe the military was always close in their investigation, but never got the right person, Logan thought. This seemed to be the most logical conclusion, but then there were still a few things that didn't make any sense. Why would they be covering for a murderer? They couldn't have been that close, as no one knew each other before coming here. Unless they were directly involved, there would be no need for a cover-up. Then the second thing was the fact, why would there be a need for them to kill again? The way Peter had spoken had made it sound like an accident. The next thing Logan pulled up was a file on Fex, the student's name that was mentioned in their conversation. Now things are starting to make less sense, he said. Fex was a new student who had only been here a few days and had been brought in for draft evasion. For some reason, there was a link between all these people, but Logan just couldn't find it. His heart started beating as the excitement of a mystery was about to be unlocked. He felt the same feeling he did when he was working on a new idea, and when he finally found the missing component, a rush of dopamine would be sent to his brain. There was one place that they would be at tonight, without fail, and that was the student's name, Fex. Before leaving, Logan grabbed a round ball-like object and started making some adjustments with his mechanical glove. Vorden had caught up with Quinn and given him information on his target, saying what homeroom class they were from and also what combat classes they would attend. Judging by the time of day, they were able to guess most likely where the student would be. Quinn had gone to one of the homeroom classes to find his target. Vorden had gone to wait outside the dorm area, and lastly, Peter to the canteen. As Quinn walked down the hallway where the students were just outside their homeroom, he would use his inspection skill on all those walking by. Vorden had given a description, but Quinn felt like using his inspection skill would allow him to spot the right person quicker in the crowd of people. As for how to convince the student to come with him, Quinn had wanted to test something. Finally, he found the student walking back toward the dorm room. Quinn quickly tapped the student on the shoulder. "What is it?" the student said, half annoyed as he turned, but he quickly changed his tone. "Oh, sorry, how can I help you?" he said with blush marks underneath his cheeks. He had never seen a student so handsome before. It was as if something was drawing him in. "Influence skill activated. Influence skill successful." Before approaching the student, Quinn had asked the system to allow his charm skills to go back to normal. He had increased his points by 2, and out of all the student's regenerative abilities, Quinn was tasked with the second weakest one. "Follow a few feet behind me. Don't say anything to anyone, understand?" The student nodded and continued to follow Quinn. Vorden found it quite easy to convince his student to do as asked after showing him his watch, threatening to beat the person if he didn't comply, and then finally, it was Peter's turn. Dinner had ended, and he could see his target moving up and leaving the place, but he was also with a few of his friends as well. However, Peter managed to pluck up the courage and stand in front of the student. "I'm here to deliver a message," Peter said. "General Duke has asked me to take you to him at this moment."
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.